I love big hunks of meat. I really have to come up with a better way to say this. I really like to cook big pieces of meat by braising them. Somewhere there is a better phraseology out there. Help me out if you can. So what is braising and why is it so great? Well, first off, Grandma and Mom, whoever made pot roast in your family, was on the right track with getting a piece of meat and letting it cook for a long time. Now here is the biggest thing I like about braising. Number one, it's cheap. Number two, you can make a lot of food from it. And number three, it is absolutely delicious. So in front of me here, we have a very large piece of meat referred to as a Boston butt, which is actually a pork shoulder from a pig, because for some reason back in the day, they used to store pork in something called the butt. I'm not quite sure. Write your local congressman with your concerns. So what we need to braise is a chunk of meat that has enough fat and connective tissue that will keep the meat moist as it cooks for a very long time. So lean pieces of meat aren't really good for this. And what's great, as I mentioned, these pieces of meat are far cheaper than more expensive steaks that are out there, or chops in the case of pork. This particular piece of meat, 99 cents a pound, my friends. Now that is value. So what are we gonna do? Well, it's gonna be a pretty simple process. We're gonna sear this off in a pan. We're gonna render some fat out of it. Then we're gonna make a braising liquid. But first, we're gonna prep him up for the pan. Have you ever wondered if Coca-Cola and vinegar had a baby, what it would taste like? Well, even if you haven't wondered that, this would be the answer. It is a sweetened black vinegar. This is available in most international markets, and that's probably the best flavor description I can give you. And this is gonna make the next big step in our recipe, which is the braising liquid. So our Boston butt / pork shoulder is going to render away some of that fat and get a nice golden sear on both sides, about 7 minutes per side, and it will render off a lot of fat. But before it hit the pan, we patted it dry and we salted it. I know it looked like a lot of salt, but don't worry, it's a big piece of meat. Now on to the braising liquid. This is the element of the dish that's gonna bring all that flavor into our pork. And remember, it's gonna cook for about 3 to 4 hours, so it will be infused with all this goodness here. The sweetened black vinegar and brown sugar are gonna give us sweetness and some smokiness from some cumin, a little bit of onion, because you just have to have onion, it seems, like in everything. Then we're gonna put in some spicy with a little bit of ancho chili, which are dried poblano chilies, also available pretty readily now. Not overly hot, just a little tiny bit of spice to offset some of that sweetness, along with some tomatoes. It's gonna make up the majority of our braising liquid in an equal amount of water, 2 tomatoes. So the pork's gonna cook, we'll pull it out, and then we'll assemble all of our ingredients right behind in the same pan. Nice, not too many dishes. A quick recap, we browned our pork in the pan, fatty aside first, with a liberal amount of salt on both sides for about 7 minutes. Then we drained off some of the excess fat. Then we put in all of our great braising liquid ingredients after removing the pork from the pan, that sweetened black vinegar being one of them. Then once all of our ingredients were in the pan, our tomatoes and our water, we put the pork back in. Brought the pan back up to a boil. Now it's time for our final destination for our big hunk of meat, which is gonna be in the oven at about 350 degrees until when? Well, the easiest way to tell is until it completely falls apart. Pork tender would be an understatement. Typically for pork, about a ½ hour per pound is a pretty good indicator, but it's really easy. Pull meat, meat fall apart, meat done. There's fork tender and then there's incredibly delicious, and this is both. So this is what I love about a braised dish. I can get this in an oven, go outside, work in the garden for 3 or 4 hours, get hot, get tired, and there is a fantastic meal waiting for me inside. I'm gonna serve this with a little bit of polenta. Now also that braising liquid, don't forget about that. Now, it's between you and your cardiologist if you try to get rid of the fat layer that's on the top of it. There's devices out there that can separate it, things like that. You can throw it in the fridge overnight if you want, but who can wait? And it'll eventually congeal to the top and you could scrape that off. But however you and your cardiologist figure it out is fine by me, but it is absolutely worth saving as an absolutely delicious sauce to have. So once again, I think now you're seeing exactly why I like big hunks of meat, still working on it.